In the UFC's middleweight division, Israel Adesanya is the man to beat. His only loss came at UFC 259 when he moved up to the light heavyweight division and was beaten by Jan Blachowicz. The question now is, who will bring his reign to an end? So why doesn't Adesanya's kickboxing coach think that Alex Pereira is worthy of being his next opponent? And is it true that Pereira has beaten Adesanya in kickboxing? Plus, has Max Holloway hinted at what he plans to do after retirement? Stay tuned, because all of that and much more is coming right up. First up, bad memories. Israel Adesanya is known for his trademark head kicks, athletic twists, and lethal finishing, so it might not come as a surprise that he had a successful kickboxing career too. In fact, that's where he started. Adesanya started training in the sport when he was 18, and within 2 years, he was turning pro. That's how talented he was. But his last professional kickboxing fight was in 2017 when he was knocked out by a nasty left hook. Since then, he has focused on mixed martial arts, joining the UFC the following year, and has beaten everyone who stood in his way to the title. But Adesanya's past might be coming back to haunt him. The man who beat him in that last kickboxing fight was Alex Pereira, who was picked up by the UFC last year and has 2 wins to his name. And Pereira has actually beaten Adesanya twice before in kickboxing, so he's no joke. But the last Stylebender's kickboxing coach, Eugene Bareman, doesn't think that Pereira has done enough to earn a matchup with his old rival yet. Pereira will have his biggest test yet at UFC 276 next month against Sean Strickland. Strickland is on a 6-fight win streak, which has earned him the number 4 spot in the division. If Pereira can take out Strickland, then he will really start to make some waves for himself. But Eugene Bareman thinks that it still won't be enough. He said, if Pereira wins, he's still got to do some more work. Light heavyweight fighter Glover Teixeira thinks that Adesanya will have a talk with Dana White to try and get out of that fight. After all, if he's beaten Izzy twice, he must be dangerous. And now, striking out. Sean Strickland might be fighting Alex Pereira in the octagon, but he has already been fighting Adesanya online. In a podcast episode, he made some pretty bizarre comments about the champion's tastes. He said, he's a tough you know, besides the anime, he probably does stuff to the cartoons. It needs to be said. Adesanya has made no secret of his love for cartoons and comics in the past, but this might be a bit of a stretch. He responded to Strickland's comments on Twitter by pointing out that it's called hentai, not anime, and described Strickland as uncultured swine. And Strickland has his hands full right now because it's not only Adesanya insulting him. Former UFC fighter Mike Perry called Sean a racist and a Nazi in a video on social media. Strickland laughed at the comments, and Perry admitted that he had been drinking when he posted the video. But it's Mike Perry who has been in the past accused of racism. During a bar fight in 2020, Perry was seen punching a man and yelling racist slurs at him. In response to using the N-word, Perry posted a DNA test result that showed that he had 2% African ancestry in his family. Yeah, that's probably not enough, Mike. Eventually, he apologized for the incident and promised to never use that word again. He has also been accused of domestic violence by his ex-wife, but has denied all allegations. Have you heard about people in glass houses, Mike? Up next, technique over power. For Israel Adesanya, he has other things to focus on. At UFC 276, he will be facing number 2 ranked Jared Cannonier. In Cannonier's last fight, he took Derek Brunson to the ground in the 2nd round before finishing him off with a brutal elbow that knocked him out. He looks dangerous, but it's going to be an uphill battle to take out the champion. Brunson lost to Robert Whittaker in 2020, who Adesanya has beaten twice already. But in that second fight, it was a razor-thin margin that gave Adesanya the win. With so little between the top contenders, the middleweight division has never been more exciting. UFC heavyweight has given his view on who has the upper hand between Cannonier and Adesanya. He said that while Cannonier might have the power to cause some real damage, ultimately, Adesanya's technique is second to none. He said, technique versus power. I have to go with technique. The Cannonier is scary on his feet. Izzy is going to have to be his smoothest. He's not the only one backing Izzy. Fellow middleweight Kevin Gastelum continues to be impressed by Adesanya's career. He thinks that he is improving in every fight, and that's why he has been unstoppable. Gastelum lost to Adesanya in 2019 and has lost 4 out of his last 5 fights. If he's going to turn his career around, now is the time. But with such a competitive division, who can blame him for his losses? Which MMA fight did Ariel Helwani say is bigger than the Boxing World Championship? And what's Max Holloway's next job that he has lined up already? Don't go anywhere, because that's coming right up. Fighting along Adesanya at UFC 276 will be Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway fighting for the featherweight title. Volkanovski has beaten Holloway twice already and defended his title 3 times in total. He thinks that his 11-fight unbeaten UFC run makes him the greatest featherweight of all time, and he has already expressed his desire to move up a weight class and become a 2-division champion. But first, he'll have to defend his title one more time against Max Holloway. Holloway is the fighter that never seems to quit. Since joining the UFC in 2011, 2011, he has seen the highs and lows of the sport. He won the featherweight title against Anthony Pettis in 2016 and then backed it up by beating legendary fighter Jose Aldo twice. That was until Alexander Volkanovski came along. The Australian took the title in 2019 and hasn't looked back since. That's why the final fight between the two will be the end of an epic trilogy. Journalist Ariel Helwani has even said that the fight will be a bigger draw than the recent boxing title fight between George Kambosos Jr. and Devin Haney. In a post on Twitter, Helwani pointed out that the two UFC fighters would still make only a fraction of what the boxers did despite a bigger audience. Kambosos and Haney walked away with $10 million and $2.8 million from their fight, while Volkanovski and Holloway earned just over $300,000 from their last fight. This has been a big talking point in MMA and boxing recently, the former UFC fighters and commentators putting pressure on Dana White to increase how much fighters are earning. But for Dana, boxers are all overpaid, and he doesn't have much respect for the business. Up next, backup plan. If Holloway doesn't manage to topple Volkanovski in their third fight, it might be time to hang up the boots. The Hawaiian-born fighter has achieved everything there is to achieve within the UFC and is universally respected. So what could be next for Holloway? You might not guess it, but Holloway is a gamer. And not just any gamer. He is a professional esports player now. He competes with the massive esports team Complexity, playing Apex Legends as part of the Complexity Stars team. He plays in tournaments and produces content for the team just like any other professional gamer does. He has said that it is something that helps him bond with his son, and that it's like a getaway from fighting for him. During his streams, he doesn't like to talk about fighting at all because that's his job. But it's not all relaxation. Holloway says that, of course, and he loves competing and likes to think that he's a professional gamer. It's always good to have a backup career, and esports has some big opportunities these days. And Holloway is pretty established in the community. When he got married earlier this year, some of the world's biggest gaming streamers were the first to congratulate him. Holloway even has his own YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers. So if you want to watch Holloway carving it up online and bantering with other players, check him out. But if you are raging at Apex Legends and threaten to fight other players, be careful. It might be a former UFC champion on the other side of the screen. Do you think that we could see any other UFC stars turn to esports? Who would you like to see playing online? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.